Welcome to Fabulous Women Over 40, hosted by celebrity stylist Kara Allan. Join Kara as she interviews amazing women, sometimes younger and amazing men as well, in their 40s and beyond. Here's Kara with our Fabulous Woman of the Day.
Welcome back to Fabulous Women Over 40, the podcast where we celebrate extraordinary women who are reinventing themselves, breaking boundaries, and creating lives they absolutely love. I'm Kara Allan, your host, personal stylist, luxury lifestyle strategist, entrepreneur, and a woman who believes that life doesn't get smaller after 40, it gets bigger, bolder, and more beautiful. Today, we're joined by Riana Malia, a board-certified neurosomatic practitioner and identity architect whose work sits at the intersection of neuroscience, nervous system regulation, embodiment, and personal transformation. Riana helps individuals uncover the hidden patterns shaping their lives, relationships, leadership, and success by addressing identity at its deepest level. Rather than focus solely on mindset, she explores how the body stores experiences, beliefs, emotional imprints, and survival strategies, and how those patterns can unconsciously influence everything from confidence and visibility to business growth and personal fulfillment. Her approach bridges science and self-awareness, helping people move beyond performance, self-sabotage, and outdated identities into a more authentic expression of who they truly are. In a world that often teaches us to think our way through challenges, Riana invites us to listen to the wisdom of the nervous system and understand how transformation happens when the mind and body work together. This conversation explores healing, identity, leadership, human behavior, emotional resilience, and what it truly means to become the person you're meant to be. Please join me in welcoming Riana Malia. How are you today?
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, I'm so happy you are. We had a great conversation a couple weeks ago, so I was excited to get to have this conversation with you today.
Yes.
So first, you call yourself the identity architect. What does that mean? And how is identity different from personality?
That's a great question. So the identity architect piece came about because when I'm in the work that I do, which I created for me first, I'm sure we'll get to that later, but there's so much, especially for high achieving, high capacity women, we are used to, we're fixers, right? We see something, we're like, okay, that's an issue, that's a problem. Here's the solution, I'm going to handle it. And so often our identity, a huge part of our identity is attached to what we do and what we accomplish and all of those things. So we see a really big disconnect between high achieving women that have everything else pretty dialed in. And then there's this typically one area that they're like, I don't get it. Everything else is handled except this piece over here. And oftentimes it's when we look at identity, whether it was an identity that was attached to being a business owner or CEO or a mama or a wife or now an ex-wife, all of those pieces at different stages of life were really defined who we are. And as we grow and as things shift and change, and especially around story, if there were things in the past that were traumatic or difficult, a failed marriage, a failed business, whatever it is, that story at the time when you're in it and you're just in it, it defines you. And that becomes your identity. As you grow and as you move and as you're able to step into the identity that actually is aligned with who you are and who you're becoming, those things no longer define you. It refines you. You can stand on your story. You can talk about it without the drama and the emotion attached, which is important because every time you go back into it from that level of being in it, your body relives it as though it keeps happening, and it keeps you from actually moving forward and living the life that you were meant to live.
So when someone has that, where they have this scenario, let's just say, or story that keeps replaying in their mind, what's a good way for them just to kind of, I don't know, is there a technique they can use to kind of just snap out of it or just catch themselves saying it? Or what do you recommend for people when that comes up?
I love that. It's one of my favorite things. I actually call it the magnet for miracle practice. So I do a lot around values in the work that I do. And for me as a person and for my business, my values are love, generosity, impact, the belief in what's possible, and being a magnet for miracles. That's my favorite teach.
I love that.
So before we give a solution, I think it's really helpful just to understand the why it's happening. So if we think about our body, Everything from the neck up is our conscious mind. It's our critical faculties. It's everything we know. It's our goal setter. We use it all day long. And it's 10%, which means the rest of the body, everything from the neck down, the other 90% is the unconscious mind. So if the conscious is our goal setter, the unconscious is the goal getter. It's the operating system. And most importantly, it's the literal library of everything we've ever experienced in our entire lives. Everything we've felt, said, been said to, all the things. And it's held at a cellular level. So we know science that memory is cellular. Of course, it lives in the circuitry of the brain, but we see it in so many ways, right? We see it generationally, where you'll see things that pass down in humans and animals, and you see it in organ donors, where somebody like couldn't stand potato chips their whole life, and all of a sudden they crave them, and they come to find out that the person's heart or whatever that they received, that was their favorite thing. So like all of that is real. And when it doesn't get released properly, then we see things manifest in the body: illness, injury, anxiety, depression, confusion, overwhelm, like that paralysis feeling, the physical inability to release, the physical weight that's hanging on, because as women, our nervous systems are built differently than men. And when there's something going on in the unconscious that doesn't feel safe, it physically protects the body. So I have a lot of practitioners that work with midlife women around perimenopause and menopause, and they will send those women to me so we can actually release this negative charge of this emotional weight, and then the rest of it follows. But back to your original question. So we think between 65,000 and 85,000 thoughts a day, which is crazy. 90% of those thoughts are recycled, meaning they're the same version of the thought we thought yesterday and the day before and the week before and last month and last year and in the middle of the night when we're, running all the what ifs. The issue there is 75% of those thoughts are negative. And I get a ton of pushback on that, because obviously my clients are very emotionally intelligent and they've done all the mindset and all the work, like they're solid, they've done everything. But what you don't realize is the way that the brain is wired, we're often thinking about all the things we don't want. Don't want to be in this job that I hate. I don't want to be in another relationship where I don't feel cherished and loved. I don't want to be in a relationship where I don't feel like I can trust this person. I don't want to be, in this financial situation. I don't. Well, the unconscious mind can't hear the qualifiers. It doesn't hear the don't. It just knows it just registers what you're thinking about, what you're focusing on. And that's why people end up in situations where they say, I keep ending up in the same relationship. I keep marrying the same person over and over, different body, or the same situations in their professional world where it's like, nothing ever works out for me. It's amazing, because what I'm going to share with you that you guys can actually do in real time over the course of the next 72 hours will change your world. But it's so simple, but it's so complex in the fact that we now understand, because of all the neuroscience studies that have been done, the power of thoughts. I mean, it all starts there, right? But I also want to be clear, this is not some, write your manifestations down 3 times a day and, just sit in your driveway and hope that your vision board comes true. It really is a scientific process to then support what it is that you actually want. So between now and then, you get to have it. So here's what we'll do. One other thing I think is important before I give you the what is one other thing that's critical about frequency. So we don't get what we want in life. We get who we are. And so I like to talk about that before I share this experience, because I want you to understand, like for you, like I want, as you're listening to this, to be able to actually lock in. So we're going to use you, Kara, as an example, but I want you who are listening to slot in your actual favorite music and your actual least favorite music. Don't use Kara's. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite genre of music, or one of your favorite things to listen to?
Well, Prince was one of my favorite artists. He still is. I mean, he's not with us anymore, but
Yes.
he was one of my favorite artists. I think now I listen more to upbeat, just not that his wasn't, but just upbeat even kind of manifestation-y music that is all about feeling good, having a good life, not focusing on what left or what's gone and my cat.
Right. Okay.
That kind of thing.
Amazing. And then what would be a genre of music that you really can't stand?
Sad. Oh my God, what happened? My dog died. The kid, he left, he cheated, he did this, he did that. Everything. Everything's falling apart. My life is hell. That kind of music.
Perfect. Okay. So I want you to imagine that we know that every emotion has a frequency, right? We have high vibrating emotions, love, joy, appreciation, gratitude, all the things. And then we have low frequency emotions, anger, rage, victim, shame, blame, all the things. And
gossiping.
Yes. And so when we look at that emotional guidance scale, there's the high vibe and the low vibe and then everything in between. And consciously, when I will ask somebody, like, we often think that consciously we are spending time in those higher vibration emotions, like we're intentional and we have our gratitude practice. And that's true. But unconsciously, what's happening underneath is mostly hanging out in that low frequency emotions, right? Doubt, fear, anger, shame, guilt, all the things. So when we talk about frequency, I want you to imagine that everything that you want for your life, yourself, your business, your family, your future, all of it is hanging out at Sirius XM 111, which is all like super high vibe, amazing music that makes you just feel good. It's like, it's like your audios. And then everything that you don't want is hanging out at, XM 994, which is just this sad, my dog died, my husband left, I don't have any friends, my life is horrible, right? And so when our subconscious and unconscious mind is focused on the things that we don't want, it's down here. So the question is, can I hear like these high vibe manifestation, incredible music on the sad, I'm going to jump off the bridge, my life sucks channel? Not a chance in hell, right? So how do we get there? We have to change the channel, right? So radio, satellite, it's frequency. So how do we get there? So that's the question.
Right.
So this is what we're going to do. You need 2 pieces of paper, clean pieces of paper, and you need a rubber band, not the smushy kind we put in our hair when we go to sleep, but like the office kind. So it has to like sting when you snap it. Okay.
I don't even have any of that.
You can get it later. So here's what we're going to do. On the top of one piece of paper, I want you to write the word away. On the other piece of paper, I want you to write the word toward. And now I want you to imagine, and especially for those of you listening, if you're really visual, this piece is like super helpful, that you're in a room with 4 walls, to the left, to the right, in front of you, behind you. And I want you to imagine that one of those walls is the away wall, and it is everything you don't want, and literally everything you don't want ever again. And you're going to write all of that on that list. And then I want you to actually physically tell me, for you in this room, which wall would that be?
It would be the wall across from me.
So in front of you?
Yeah, so like the farthest wall away from me.
Okay, got it. And then your toward wall is everything you do want. Goals, wishes, dreams, hopes, magic wand, fairy dust, all of it. And I really want you, when you guys are making these lists, to like extensively write down everything. No filtering of, well, I'm this age, so that's not, that's probably not going to happen. No filtering. Literally everything you want. So for you, your toward wall would be where, Kara?
Probably the one closest to me, behind me.
Okay. So if you're a super visual person, I have a lot of clients who will take these lists and physically tape them in an office, in a closet, in the bathroom, whatever, as just an anchor. But no matter what, I want you to make sure when you finish these lists that you take photos of them on your phone and either pin them in the Notes app, so that you can just instantly see them, or put them in an album that's like, pinned to the top of your photo so you can access them super, super quickly.
Okay.
Now, you're going to put a rubber band on, and we are going to play full out for 72 hours. And 72 hours is not just a number out of the air. We know that we can rewire the neurology in 72 hours by doing what I'm going to share with you.
Okay.
So as you go, just do your regular life. Like, don't make any changes. Don't don't do something or not. Just do what you would do, but keep the rubber band on. And every single time that you catch yourself feeling either like you're really in that place of like doubt or shame, or feeling like, everything's wrong and nothing's going right, I want you to snap it hard so it stings, because the brain needs a pattern interrupt.
Okay.
And then when you snap it, I want you to recall what it was you were thinking about. And I want you to keep note of it however it feels good to you. Voice note yourself, throw it in Notes app, put it on a piece of paper, I don't care. But keep note of what it is that you recall, that when you go back and you're like, what was I thinking about? I promise you, it's 99.999% of the time, it's something on that away wall list. And the first day, you might be shocked at how infrequently you snap the rubber band, because this is the operating system. Like, this is so decades of wiring, you don't even notice it. And it might even be that you don't notice it in real time, but you notice like in your body, like you have a pit in your stomach, or you feel like your heart is racing all of a sudden, or you just have that heavy dread feeling, and you don't really know why. I still want you to snap it, even if it like you just have absolutely no, and try to go back to the last thing. So the second day, you're going to start snapping it more, and you're going to be like, okay, this is interesting. And I want you again, keep a very, non-formal, just keep a record of what it is that you're thinking about. And the biggest piece of this, though, is after you snap it and like pull up what you were thinking about, I need you to replace the thought with a better feeling thought. The easiest way to do it is literally whatever it was you were thinking about, flip it. So if it was, I just don't, I don't want to get hurt again. I don't want to freaking be in another relationship where I just give everything and then it's nothing back. Okay, snap and go, okay. It is so incredible to be loved the way that I've always dreamed of being loved. And like this, because it only takes 17 seconds for the brain to actually create new neural pathways or reinforce the old ones when you're holding that with emotion, that all the senses. And if that feels like you're like, I don't even know what the opposite of that is, let me give you some other really easy ways to do this. Just look at your list of your toward wall and pick something and sit in that as though it is. And if you were to call your best girlfriend and be like, you're never going to believe this, in the most amazing way, and just describe it. This literally, I'll do this in the mirror sometimes if I'm like to, do my own magic. Right. And also I can't do my own magic on me. So I have a me for me, which is also very funny because we really literally do the same thing. And she'll say, what would you say to your client? And I'll say, blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, go do that. But we can't get out of our own bucket of bullshit sometimes, right? Yes. So, look at that toward wall list and pick something. And for 30 seconds, even just like as though it is you're experiencing it and you're telling your best girlfriend about it. And you can also like just sit and be in actual gratitude for a minute. And when I say actual, I don't mean the Pollyanna, I'm so grateful for my life. I mean like something you are actually genuinely grateful for in this moment. It could just be like, I'm so grateful for this freaking cup of coffee, or that it's been raining for 5 days and the sun is out, or whatever, the tiniest little thing. And if you're still feeling in it, I want you to ask yourself, who in this moment can I serve? And it does not need to be some big grand gesture. It could literally just be thinking about somebody, saying a prayer for someone, sending a text to someone, saying, I hope you're having a wonderful day. It can be seeing something as you're pulling into the neighborhood that, your neighbor's plant fell over. I don't know. You pick it up for them. Something to get out of your own head in service of someone else.
Right. Got it.
And what you'll notice is by day 3, you're snapping it a lot. And the point of this is not to be like, oh, in 72 hours, you're never going to have these thoughts again. Of course not. We're not giving you a lobotomy. You're going to have the thoughts. the point is to pull yourself out of it as fast as you can, rather than sitting in it for hours or days. Then it becomes, hours, then minutes, and then seconds. And then sometimes, and I have a lot of clients will say to me, they're like, it's just even, I have clients that wear the rubber band all the time. They're like, even just the weight of it, it's like triggers me to notice when I'm there. And so all of the things, and I play a game, my daughter and I have a parking spot game. And I use that because how many people do you know in your life? They're like, there's never a parking spot. Or whenever I go to, the people always say, don't give me a good haircut. My glasses never come back right. Like nothing ever works out for them, right? The dog groomer, like there's people in the world that's their reality, and it will always be because
yes, it keeps speaking that into existence.
Right? And because it's like I don't know about you, I have zero sense of direction. So I have to use my nav system or my Google Maps app or whatever all the time. And it's just like I put an address in the thing and it tells me where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. When we are thinking about all of those things that we don't want, that's the freaking address in our brain in the GPS. And it's like, okay, got it. That's where we're going. That's where we're going. That's where we're going.
Right.
So what this does over the course of 72 hours is it not only brings that like awareness, which is great. We need awareness and clarity, of course, but it actually, there's a physical rewiring of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And you will start to notice, it's the fastest way to have like your physical world change. It's kind of like if you think about your life for a minute, like a cake. And if you think about all the things in your life that aren't working in the way in which you wish that they could or should.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that and you go, okay, so that's the cake. The stuff that's not working is the cake. So if we bake a cake and we take it out of the oven and it tastes terrible, how are we going to bake a better cake? We're going to look at the ingredients. Like maybe we use salt instead of sugar, or baking powder instead of whatever.
Right.
We're going to look at the ingredients. We're going to figure it out. Well, because the cake comes out of the oven, it's the last thing to manifest, right? So the eggs and the flour and the sugar and all that stuff was the ingredients.
Right.
So for us, our physical life, our experience right now, everything that's tangible is the cake. And the ingredients are the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And it all starts with what we're thinking about and what we're focusing on. So the fastest way to make a better cake is fixing this ingredient problem. So I always say, like, don't do this half-heartedly. And I will tell you also, if this is running through your head, people, because I get this all the time, I'll have clients say to me, honestly, I have to be really truthful. I thought this was the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I couldn't believe I was going to do this. And it literally changed my life. So any kind of preconceptions, just set it aside. You have nothing to lose, right? You're not stopping life for 72 hours. You're just going to get it's going to become like so evident to you when you're going into that low frequency space. And this is going to help you instantly shift that.
It's interesting because I think I was doing a version of that, but without the rubber band. Because I noted
Rubber band is key.
Yeah, I noted the other day I was talking to my friend and she was in the process of coming to my house for the party and everything. And he was just all of a sudden started complaining about something some driver was doing or something, and I was just like it was real intense. But then it was also infectious because then I started complaining about it too, and I'm just like, oh my God, like stop. So now, and I think because of that, and for whatever reason that day, it was super aware of it. Me being aware of her complaining, and then me being aware of me complaining too. The next couple of days after that, I started walking around and I'm kind of, chatting to myself about something and then start fussing. And I was like slap myself out of it. Stop. We're just going to cut that off because, that's not perpetuating anything more than me feeling bad and being annoyed at this person who's not even here in this conversation that I'm having with myself. And again, it wasn't without the snap, but it was like I snapped myself out of it because it was just like, oh, stop, let's move on to something else. I'm not doing that. But yeah, the rubber band would definitely give you that little whoop. Okay.
Well, and it's just like, with anything, when you look at like marketing or people that make videos, there's pattern interrupts, for a reason.
Mhm.
Like it'll,
Yeah.
somebody will be walking and then it'll be like really close up or some light flash because that's the brain just like zones out so quickly.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so the physical sting of the snap, so there's the actual snapping it, so you're intentionally doing something, but then the sting of the snap
Mhm.
is a signal to the brain to stop
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
go, okay, what was it? Okay, got it. Flip that. See how your whole body will change, like how you feel will change, how your energy levels. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Definitely have to go to the get some rubber band.
Yeah.
Don't use them in my house for whatever reason, but yeah, I'll definitely go get some.
It's so funny. I never had them either, but then I noticed like on like broccoli
Mhm.
or cauliflower, sometimes there's those like thick, they're like blue. I don't know. Anyway, I use
Oh,
those. Like if you get produce, sometimes it'll have the big
yeah.
band on the bottom. Anyway, random.
Most of the ones that I've gotten, like my daughter, when she does a lot of the grocery shopping, but she'll come back with my kale, but it's not a rubber band. It's like one of those bread tie type things.
Oh
So
yeah.
the no snap. But the roses that everybody brought me had rubber bands, but I cut them. I didn't take them off. So I'll have to remember to keep a couple of those too. That's probably why I don't have any, because I just cut them and throw them away. So,
Sure, sure.
so you specialize in neurosomatic work, which kind of this reminds me of something like that. Can you explain what that means and why it matters?
Yeah. So the work that I do, so my methodology, if you will, it's called Clear to Create, because the reason for that is my intention, kind of my tagline, my whole life has always been your very best life. Like I think when I was 17,
Mm,
I bought the domain just because I felt like it was whether we've been friends for 20 minutes or 20 years, like I want you to live your version of your very
hmm
best.
Yeah.
And it's different for every single one of us. Obviously, we're all unique individuals. But the
Yeah.
truth is you can't go from childhood stuff, you know, betrayal, loss, divorce, bankruptcy, whatever it is, to just
hmm
living your very best life. It doesn't work that way. You have to clear before you can create. So we have to
hmm
clear the story to create the life. And people say all the time to me, I want a different story. Great, stop telling the old one, first and foremost, right? We kind of alluded to that in the beginning of our conversation. And we have to clear the cycles to create the confidence. So oftentimes, especially at this stage of life, when we hit 40 and beyond,
hmm
there's things that have happened that we have evidence that we can't really trust ourselves, right? We're like, I was so sure, and look how that turned out,
Right.
whatever, personally, professionally. So there's this part of us that goes, I don't know if I can trust myself. So if we look at life in general, everything's cyclical. And it's fascinating to go like take a quick check backwards every 7 to 9 years in your life and see, oh, wow, every 7 years I burned something down, or I moved, or I had a relationship change, or I had a health issue. Like it's super
Mm,
fascinating.
Yeah.
But we have to clear those old cycles to create that confidence. And so that you don't have to question if you can trust yourself, you know, if it's actually a red flag, or if you're just being really picky, or if this is a good idea and it's a business partnership, or if you're just so off the mark, because now you have this incredible, I call it your North Star. It's your menu. And
Mm,
it's really the difference between why people mostly almost get what they want and they never do, because it's like going to a restaurant and sitting down and the server comes by and says, hey, what can I bring you? And you're like, I'm thirsty. I want a salad, a protein, and a vegetable. And they're like, great. And they bring you an iced tea and a Caesar salad and a fabulous pork tenderloin and some beautiful roasted potatoes. And you got exactly what you ordered. But what you wanted was a glass of Pinot and an arugula salad with figs and goat cheese and a perfectly done ribeye and some roasted asparagus. That level of specificity and clarity is the
mm,
reason why most people never actually get what they want. So we fix that, right? And we
mm,
have to clear the patterns to create the partnerships. So we all want loving, fulfilled partnerships, personally, romantically,
mhm.
professionally. But when we bring all that old patterns, all that old unconscious wiring, all the old stories and the bullshit, we don't get the partnerships that we want. We get more of the same, which is what we don't want. And then there's this evidence that we, it doesn't work out for us, never works out, so on and so forth. So we got to clear this. And we got to clear the loss to create the love. Even if it's you got out of a marriage that was so not good for you, you still have to clear the loss and the grieving for what you wanted for it. Right? None of us start a business or start a relationship saying we're going to fail and we're going to get a divorce. Right. And lastly, we have to clear the resentment to get the results. So many people, like when we talk about self-sabotage, so people will say, this is what I want. And I'm like, I don't know why. I'm just like resisting it. And I'm self-sabotaging. I'm doing all these things. I'm like, that's what it looks like on the surface. But the real question is, what are you resenting? It could just be the simple freaking fact that you have to do it in the first place. Like, why am I having to do this at 55? Why am I having to go find a different career because my role was restructured? Like, where is the resentment?
Yeah.
So we can clear it so you actually get the result that you want. And again, not more of the same. And so when we look at all of those pieces and we understand that before we can clear anything, we have to get that level of clarity. And that's those values and those non-negotiables and those desires that become your menu in a way that you've never had them. And then we get to actually do a dysfunction detox and get rid of all the stuff that doesn't serve you. Get rid of the whole neurology and the behavior and the strategy and all of those things. And when I say strategy, I don't want your brain to go like business strategy. Know that every single thing we do in life has a strategy. It's how the brain knows what to do next. We have a strategy for grocery shopping. We have a strategy for sex. We have a strategy for napping. We have a strategy for cooking. And a lot of those strategies are great. They serve us well. But a whole lot of them are dysfunctional and keep us stuck. So we can actually blow out strategy. Procrastination is a great one, for instance.
Yeah.
We do that in a way. So here's the neurosomatic piece. I use something called quantum time release for that dysfunction detox. And it's where we get to go in and clear out that library that we talked about earlier. So if you imagine every negative emotion has its own piece of ribbon: anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame. And then, of course, all of those limiting beliefs that we have because we have all this evidence that we're not enough or too much or we're not worthy or we're not lovable or whatever it is, whether we are aware of it consciously or not. So if every single one of those negative emotions has a ribbon, and every time in your life that you have a significant emotional experience, a marble goes on each one of those ribbons. So anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame. So when something happens today that makes you angry or feel fear, whatever, it's not the today thing. It's the 40, 50, 60 years of marbles that have built up the gestalt. That's the charge. That's what we get to release in a painless, peaceful way without going back into any conscious memory of the story or the drama or the pain that caused the trauma in the first place, because all that does is reinstall traumatic neurology. That defeats the purpose. It's why, therapy and talking with our girlfriends and journaling, all of that is great and beneficial, but it doesn't actually solve this part of the problem. You have to do all of that first. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But when you stay in the story and you're reliving it and the therapist is like, let's unpack this thing for the 20th time, that's not helping you. Okay. No. Get the clarity, get the awareness, but don't stay in it. When you've done all of that, then this is when you're ready for this work. And so over the course of a couple of hours, we get to release all of that charge, that energetic weight that's held in the body. And what's so cool about that is in between each emotion, each release, we do a check. So when we're in the process, we're releasing, the charge is gone, we're getting the learnings, we're kind of re-anchoring into the truth of who you are. And then I say, now I want you to actually go back to something, a specific event in your life in the past, whether it was 2 days ago or 20 years, doesn't matter, where that emotion was a problem. And I want you to check and see if it still has a charge. And this is where people go, oh, whoa. If you would have asked me that an hour ago, I would have been in it, right? I would have felt sad or angry or like my heart would be racing and the charge is gone. And then we future pace to create new neurology around that emotion. And again, no lobotomy here. You're still going to experience these things, but not in the same way. So it's let's go out into a time in the future, an unspecified time, where if it had happened in the past, you would have had an inappropriate, amount of shame. Tell me what happens instead. And this is where you go, that's not mine to carry. Rather than feeling shamed, I would blah, blah, blah. And now your brain has new GPS directions. And so it's like when you get to release all of that, now there's room for what it is that you actually want, right? So it's like my pantry, which, as a 50-year-old woman with a little ADD and some perimenopause, like I love things organized, and also stuff piles up around me and that makes me feel crazy and I hate it. And so my pantry was out of control. And one morning I just took everything out, everything. I put it all over the kitchen, on the island, on the floor. I cleaned the pantry, and then I was going through stuff, and there was so much like expired, pasta sauces or open boxes of orzo or whatever, just all this stuff that was expired and like done. And I threw it all away. And then what was left went back, nice, organized, made me feel like Christmas, kind of like giddy. But it's the same up here.
Yeah.
When we don't get rid of the expired identity, ways of thinking, processing, reacting, the old stories that keep running the show, because that's what we know, right? The unconscious mind has two roles: keep you safe and get resolution. Keeping us safe often keeps us in this place where we know how to survive, because we know how to survive the chaos or the relationship patterns that we've been in. The other stuff is scary AF. So the unconscious mind is like, oh, I don't know. We know how to live in this. I don't know about that. Let's slow down. And the resolution piece is what needs were not met in all the different stages of your life, right? 90% of who we are, we picked up between 0 and 7. But then there's 8 to 15, and then there's 15 to 22. And when your needs aren't getting met, core needs in any of those phases, the unconscious mind will recreate that inside of human relationships to get resolution. So if you grew up in a house that was really chaotic, you might look at your life and go, I'm drawn to chaos. It's actually comfortable. Or if you grew up in a household where people were yellers, and even though you didn't like it, it's familiar. So but there were needs that weren't being met, right? So all of these things to say that when we get to actually release all of that, and now you have space for what's meant for you, now we get to ask the question of, who are you now? Outside of the titles and the labels, the mama, the business owner, the wife, the doctor, whatever. Like, who are you now, and what do you actually want? And that often brings a lot of emotion, because often the answer is, I have actually no idea. And I've spent, sorry, my puppy is having a little trouble here. He has congestive heart failure, and so that cardio cough happens. So we've spent lives taking care of everybody else, putting everybody else's needs first, figuring out take care of them. And the question of what do you really want? On the other side of this, what will you be doing or not doing differently than you're doing or not doing right now? And that sadness of, I have no idea. And that's where we get to move into the create phase. And now that we know that, then we are going to do probably the most important thing, which is, we did this whole dysfunction detox and got rid of all this stuff that was not serving you, that was keeping you back, it was holding you back, it's making you stuck, it's making you, negative and angry and complaining and all the things. Most work in this space stops there. You get a lot of awareness and clarity and ahas that feel so good. But if you don't replace the neurology, the unconscious mind can't fill in the blank. That's why people are in therapy for years and they're like, I've done so much work and it felt so good. And I really understood myself, and I can tell you my patterns backwards and upside down in my sleep. I know all of these things. And then something happens and you go back to who you were, 10 years ago. And it's why? Well, because we didn't replace the neurology, the behavior, the strategy, so that there's something new to fill in that blank. And then actually saying, okay, great. Now we've gotten the clarity. We've gotten rid of all the stuff that doesn't make sense. We're kind of understanding who we are and what we want. Now we have the skills to go with the knowledge. And now we're going to reverse engineer all of those things so that we get to actually achieve that, whether it's, love, relationships, health, wealth, doesn't matter. A trip to Italy. Like when we reverse engineer that and the brain can actually experience it as though it's happened, that's your new GPS. And then we get to the claim phase, which is where you get to own it and integrate it and embody it. And this is where, when you really own it, those external need for like, is this the right thing? Tell me I'm doing the right thing. Tell me this is good. We don't need that, because now you've fallen in love with yourself again. You trust yourself. You can confidently hold boundaries and expertly communicate your needs and deepen the richness in every single one of your relationships that you choose to have. And integrating that into your decisions and your energy and your relationships and your work and all the things, so that you get to just embody that and love and live and lead from this new frequency, from this identity that you have stepped into now that's actually aligned with who you are. And it's just really beautiful.
So, you were talking about something earlier, and it reminded me of the book, or when people say the body keeps the score. When you talk about how it's like something's happening, but it's not happening. It's just you're recalling it, but the body thinks that it's happening because it can't tell the difference between what's real and what's your. It's just reacting to the thought of you saying, "Oh my God, I'm in danger," or something's happening, or whatever's going on.
1,000%.
Yeah, and I think that people. I mean, I have some family members. Well, they're in-law. I don't want to say too much.
Yeah.
But that there's a situation there that had never gotten resolved, and you could be having a conversation one minute, and the next thing it's sort of like the record scratched, and the person's talking about whatever this thing was that happened 40-50 years ago, and you're like, where did that come from? We weren't even talking about anything that was like even remotely close to what's happening here. But it's like her body or her brain or whatever, to me it seems like it's trying still to repair itself, because it just keeps coming up. It will not go away because it's never been addressed. It's never been no work around that.
And it will not go away. And the thing about this is that there's not anything for that person to do or learn, or it's not about doing more. It's literally doing this work, right? Because if you could tap into this other part and you could take care of this yourself, you would have. Most people aren't saying, oh, I'd like to be this miserable person all my life. Right? And then there's also this idea of like, well, I should just be able to figure it out. Like, I should be able to snap out of it. I should be able to like, let this go. Okay, well, that's all great in theory. But again, it's why people like this person is talking about, gardening, and all of a sudden they're all in their freaking story and their emotions about being pissed off about something that somebody said or did 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between continuing to talk about something, thinking it's going to get resolved, versus being able to do that, tapping into the general, to the unconscious mind, where we can actually clear it and be done with it. And so that story no longer is, it's so their identity. It's so like part of who they are, and the drama and emotion, and they tell the same story with the same words, and like they're just so in it, and you'll never break free of that by just continuing to tell the story.
And I mean, it was a traumatic thing, honestly. And I feel like everyone that I've known that has had that similar thing, they're not as, I mean, I won't say not traumatized, but they're not as vocal about it as she is, let's just say. Most people, you might not know about it. If it might come up in a random conversation, but it definitely doesn't come out like that repeatedly, like all the time, where it's just, you don't know. I've heard that same story now for 20 plus years, at least, because it's like, it's just there and there's no work done around it. And you can't even talk to them when they start going off down that rabbit hole. It's like, I just end up looking like a Muppet because I can't say, what do you want me to say? I can't fix it. I don't know what to tell you. We've had this conversation before many times. So what do I do with this? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's crazy. So if identity is something that we create, I think you mentioned like people would be sad around now I don't know who I am if I don't have this story, right? But do you find that many people are happy once that comes up? Other than I get you may are kind of grieving something, but to me it would be like, wow, I get to be somebody else. Like what a great adventure. Do you have many people who have the positive kind of
Oh my,
response to it
yes.
versus
It's so freeing. And it's
yeah.
also one of those things where you'd make the invisible visible because
Mm,
it wasn't even, most people say, I just never even thought about it. I never
yeah.
even considered it. I'm X amount old and this is my life and I can't go back and do
Yeah.
anything. But so there's this sense of like being resigned to that. This is just how it is. And
Mm,
when the shift from that to actually between now and dead, what do you actually want? And the idea of that being possible, stepping into this next part of life that becomes about you in the sense
yeah.
of who you really are. It is so incredible. Like just the physical, I can watch people's whole physical being change. And
Yeah.
it's magical. And the freedom and the excitement about a future that wasn't even possible,
Right.
days
Didn't
ago
think
or
it was
whatever.
available.
It is really beautiful because now people are like, oh my God, I get to choose. I
Yeah.
literally get to choose. I am not at the mercy of, at the victim of. I'm not like everything in the world is, done to me and I have no control. When
Right.
you actually get that agency back and that understanding of like,
Yeah.
it's all a choice. And, it's a really fascinating flip and it happens really fast, but it is
Mm.
one of the most incredible things to witness.
And something else you mentioned too. Why do you think so many people don't know what they want? Like when you were talking about the choosing of the meal. Like
Yeah.
I sit down, I know exactly what I don't no problems choosing it. For other people are sort of like, why do and then not just the meal because that's just whatever. But why do you think people have so much problem? Just really, is it because they don't think that something's available to them, or they just really don't know what they want, or what do you think that is?
I think it's a couple of things. Number one, I think that if, let me give you an example. Let's say I say, okay, tell me, somebody says, I want my person. I want to have the love that, like I'm married to the love of my life for 2.5 years now. Never thought that would happen after all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're like, I
Right.
want what you have. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want? And they're like, I want somebody who loves me and appreciates me and who's kind and who wants to like go on adventures and who, will be my partner and my companion. Okay, so you're getting an iced tea and a Caesar salad and some chicken. Like that's great, but there's nothing specific there. There's nothing visceral about that. So
No.
we go into first, let's talk about your values. And values are the drivers, right? So the things at the core of who you are, without these things, it cannot be. Number one, that becomes super clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then the non-negotiables. And this is where it gets very interesting because people will be like, well, and then they'll say, and they're either thinking about somebody they're currently in a relationship with that they know if they actually speak this out loud and it's a non-negotiable, then they have to leave the relationship, which is too scary and blah, blah, blah. Or they start editing themselves because they don't think they can have it or they're worthy of it or it'll happen for them. So a non-negotiable is literally a non-negotiable. It is a thing that like, if it's on that list or not on that list, it's a clean no. It takes away all the trying to like justify and talk yourself in or out of something and the months and trying to figure somebody out. It's super easy because the desires is where like the magic wand fairy dust stuff is, right? That's where like the forehead kisses in the kitchen. It's where, you come home after a busy day and you walk in the door and you're like, oh, what are we gonna do for dinner? And your person walks up to you and hands you a glass of tea or wine or whatever and says, go relax. I got dinner. And you're like, oh, that's the right? Non-negotiables literally have to be things that are non-negotiable, whatever that is for you. And at different stages of life, it's different. But when we do that work and you get this clarity codex and all of a sudden you have this thing that in one conversation, you know with certainty if somebody even gets to potentially be in your world, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, a professional partnership, all of a sudden life gets a lot easier because you don't have to play the game with the voice in your head, who's a liar, by the way, and she's usually a bitch. Like if she was your best friend, you wouldn't hang out with her. But you don't have to like do this dance anymore. You actually have a thing that you can run anybody through in 30 seconds and go, yeah, no, clean no, moving on. Yeah. So it is a life change. That level of clarity is life changing for every part of your life, right? It doesn't matter what we're talking about. Personal, professional, it changes everything.
Yeah. Because I can remember times when in between being married and I was dating certain people and should have done more of that, like clean no, yes, whatever. And whenever it ended, it was just like, yeah, that was something I probably shouldn't have been in the first place. Yeah. Just been more clear about what, and I kind of was clear in the beginning, but then, went past my own nose for whatever reason.
Well,
and that
absolutely
being good.
Well, the reason is because you had the non-negotiables in your head, but you're like, well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it'll change. Maybe, maybe I'm just being a little bit ridiculous in my expectation. And you start to talk yourself out of your non-negotiables because you don't want the same ending again. You don't want another relationship that didn't work out, right? And so you start, your brain starts to like mush it all together and switch it around and change the color and the shape and all the things. But when you get to make those values driven decisions and have a clean yes and clean no, what it does is it takes away the middle, which is the maybe, which is the devil, which is where all the noise and the drama and the decision fatigue lives, which for most of us, when we're caught in that, we either make a decision out of fear or we don't make one at all. And then guess what? Yeah. Life happens to us and we're not in control and we are at the mercy of everybody else's blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yeah. Not making a decision is a decision too.
Yes, it is.
I mean, let's just say. So what do you hope your work, what kind of legacy it's going to leave for you behind?
Yeah. I look at my daughter who's 22 and she and I had a conversation and she's experiencing her first real relationship and being in love. And she said something to me about like, so like at 22, were you kind of in the same place? And I said, oh, baby, at 22, I was begging for love. I was certain there was something definitely wrong with me. Nobody was really going to love me.
Yeah.
So I will take this clear truth and make sure. So I got married at 23, and all of these things, and we won't go into the craziness of it all. But at 22, if I would have had the work that I do now, it would have changed everything. Now I don't regret it because I get to do the work that God has called me to do. And because of this work, because of all the things, I am married to the love of my life. That would have never happened without this work because I had so much evidence that I was, too much, not enough, whatever.
Yeah.
Relationship, a marriage and then a relationship that was super abusive, huge betrayal from my father. So I had all kinds of evidence.
Yeah.
And that was the catalyst for like, there has to be a different way. There has to be a better way to heal beyond talking about stuff and staying in the sadness or the rage or the whatever, and then just keep talking about it. And it was about then that I kind of came upon something that became kind of the basis for my life's work, because in a matter of weeks, there was parts of me that I didn't recognize in all the best way. So the legacy is, I want you to understand that you're not too old, too young, too late, too much, not enough. It's just the old wiring. And it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to take years. And you don't have to sit and tell the story a million times. Because I don't know about you. Like I did a lot of therapy in my 20s. And there was a point where my therapist that she was my first real therapist and I loved her. And then all of a sudden, like she moved out of state or whatever. So there was no longer access to her. And the thought of having to tell the story again, I was like, forget it. So what I ended up doing is writing like a 20-page document. And I sent it to the next therapist. I said, charge me for a session, but read this before. Like, I don't want to spend 6 months of catching you up. You know what I'm saying? So like the resourcefulness of me went, how can I figure this out? But for so many people at whatever stage of life that you're in and whatever it is that you're spinning about and thinking it's never going to happen for me, or this, it's always the same ending. The thought of having to explain all of that to somebody is so overwhelming that it's like, forget it. And what I want you to understand and hear is we're not going back into the story. Most of it is completely irrelevant and not needed. We don't even need it. Like, that's literally the whole point, is that we're not going back in the story. There's nothing you have to unpack. So I think, for me, like 22-year-old me, I just, and I wish that these conversations were happening with the 22-year-olds. Usually my clients come to me in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And that's, because this kind of work is not, it's not what we've been taught as how to be able to do this and be able to do it in a way that doesn't require it to be like incremental. Well, we're going to work on this for a few months and then we're going to build on this idea. And like, we're not doing that. So I don't know if that answered the question, but it just, that's what I want to give this world, is this possibility for you that doesn't currently exist in this moment, in a way that is painless and peaceful and gives you access to the person that you actually are, and the tools and the permission to have the love, live the life that you want, that you deserve, that's worthy of you, and not taking crumbs and not, making yourself contorted into too much over here and not enough over here, and wondering why then, you all of a sudden feel like your relationship is just another thing that you have to manage, rather than you getting to, because you get to be both. You can be this badass woman that, runs the world during the day, and you can still come home and want to put your hair in a bun and have somebody like play with your hair while you're watching TV. You can be ambitious and soft. You can be driven and want to be taken care of. But there's a lot of noise in the world that says that you can only have one. And that's where like this focus for me on women in this stage of life who are pretty successful, whether it's running a household or running a company, it doesn't matter. You have friendships that are solid. Your kids are grown or whatever. And there's this part of you that's either there's around purpose, that there's more meant for you in your life. It's around, extraordinary love that you have decided is never going to happen for you. Whatever it is, I want you to hear me when I say it is actually possible in a much shorter and a much easier way than you think.
I love that. And I think that you're doing God's work out here. Definitely.
Thank you.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing today. It's been a mind-blowing conversation. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and that there's more women out there who can benefit from your work. And I would love for you to tell everybody how they can find you and how they can work with you.
Yes. So all of my work is private, with an asterisk of, if you're here in the Bay Area, I do put on an amazing event called the Brilliance Brunch every couple months. So table for 12 professional women in the Bay Area who want to have deep conversation. Outside of that, it's very bespoke. It's really designed around each person. So this is not a group. It's not a coaching program, and there's no modules. We co-create your life together. So you can find me on all the socials, Riana Malia, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I am authoring a Substack called The Last Piece. And then also my website, of course, rianamalia.com. But I would love to give your listeners a gift, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I have created something called the Extraordinary Love Index, and we lovingly call her the Ellie. And what the Ellie does is it answers the question of what is actually standing between you and extraordinary love.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm married to the love of my life, amazing. This isn't just about romantic love. It starts here, right? But what this does is it looks at 9 key areas: attachment and recognition and trauma and communication and processing and all of these things. And it's about 40 questions. So give yourself at least 10 minutes to actually answer it thoughtfully, because it's not a like, what Disney character are you? It's like, this is a legit
Right.
diagnostic. And I'm going to send you a 28-page report that is personalized about everything that you just said in all of those areas. And I'm going to show you, based on what you said and what your scores were in this area, this is what might be showing up in your life. This is what you might be going, why this is continuously showing up in my life. Here's the cost for you just staying here. And here's something you can actually do right now to move yourself forward. So it is insight you've never had. It is my gift to the world. It's my gift to you. Please go take it. Everyone in the world should take the Ellie. And I have had people reach out after they've gotten their portrait, I call it, and they've gone through it and they said, this just gave me more insight and connected the dots than the last 5 years of therapy. Like, it's so amazing. So everybody go take the Ellie. And just so you know, I actually review every single result as they come.
Well, I'm excited to get my results once I get finished. I think I was almost done. I was in the last part of it.
Good. Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for being here. I will definitely have to have another future conversation.
Yes.
And rest of your day.
Thank
I hope
you.
your dog is okay.
Yeah, my baby. Thank you.
And thanks everybody for joining us, and come again for another fabulous over 40 conversation. Ciao.
Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe so you won't miss our next conscious conversation with Kara and her fabulous guests. Follow Kara on social, on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Clubhouse, @Kara Allan, and connect with her on her website at karaallan.com. Also, leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. Thanks again, and see you next time.